sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so probably I have not said much, but I think you have called it quite immediately. So what I'm saying is that today we will be interested in first point I would like to discuss is the aspect of this journey to equilibrium. So we ask this question: how does the system equilibrate? For that, I am considering a system where you have a chamber in which I inject a gas in this particular direction and seal it so that the system now becomes an isolated system. We wait long time, and then what happens is each of these molecules will be everywhere in this chamber, and not only that, they will be moving in random directions. So these arrows, little arrows that I am putting is kind of the directions of the momentum of these particles. Now, if you want to understand whether it has reached equilibrium or not, assuming that these are very dilute gas, so you see that the velocity distribution is Maxwell distribution. This is the signature of equilibrium velocity distribution. So the system has equilibrated, means that its velocity distribution has become Maxwell distribution. Now what happens when we actually injected the gas? The gas would have immediately after you inject the gas, you can see that most of the gas molecules will have the vertical component of the velocity non-zero, and horizontal components and all other components will be zero. And as you wait long time, then what happens so that the velocity becomes Maxwell velocity and random directions if the gas particles are moving in all possible directions. And how did this happen is what tells us what is the mechanism in which this takes place. Before we talk about the mechanism, we understand one thing. Suppose if I take another chamber and then let's say I inject the gas in this direction instead of injecting gas in the vertical direction. Let's say this is Z direction and this is X direction. Then you do the same thing. You wait for a long time. Then you will see that the gas after a long time is exactly identical to, in terms of its distribution, etc. You will see that after it equilibrates, velocity distribution will be Maxwell distribution. Now you can ask a question: if someone presents you, that is, if someone presents you this, okay, so given this, given the equilibrium gas, now can we say anything about how the gas was injected into the chamber? Now this question is important. So if somebody gives you this is the equilibrium state of the system, can we say anything whether it was injected like this or like this or like this or like this or any direction? The answer for this question, as many of you know, is no. We cannot say. This is the answer for this question. Why no? Because when you inject the gas in this direction, all the gas molecules have got a vertical velocity. When you inject the gas in this direction, all the molecules have a horizontal velocity. But then in the process of equilibration, all of them get random velocities in such a way that by looking at the equilibrium distribution of the gas molecules or equilibrium state of the system, we will not be able to say whether it has come from the gas has been injected in the vertical direction or horizontal direction or from this corner, this corner. There are infinitely many possibilities, but every possibility will give rise to the final equilibrium state, which is indistinguishable from each other. So, in some sense, popularly, I may say that the memory is lost. So the gas loses that memory that it has come from Z direction or X direction, how it was injected in the process of equilibration. Now imagine that all of you have come to study in Pondicherry from different places in the country, and suddenly if you lose the memory from where you have come, then what is that you can do? You have to actually, you don't know, because from where you have come from, it came from Orissa or Kerala or Andhra Pradesh or Delhi or Bengal. So you don't know from where you have come. So where will you go? So if you have to go, then you have to choose one of the directions randomly and start going, right? So if the gas has to go back and it has infinitely many directions, if it has to choose one of the direction and reach this, the probability of choosing a direction to reach this initial state is 0. So essentially what happens is that once the gas reaches equilibrium, it cannot go anywhere. So it is you all have to stay in Pondicherry. Right now, of course, you are attending from your respective places, but if you lose your memory when you come back to Pondicherry, then you have to stay in Pondicherry. Okay, so this is, the memory is lost, and the memory is lost, and hence the journey to equilibrium is irreversible. There is only one way there. So once you go to equilibrium and you are there at equilibrium, that's all. You don't go back to non-equilibrium on its own. I mean, spontaneously, it will not go back to equilibrium. Now we can ask this question that what is the mechanism? What is the mechanism for the memory loss? There should be some reason, right? Like in some movies, you will see that somebody meets with an accident and then he loses all the memory. So there should be some cause for this loss of memory. So we can ask this question: what is the mechanism for this memory loss? Okay, so Boltzmann was the first person who asked this question, and he said there is something called molecular chaos. Essentially, there is a German word, I don't remember the German word, but the English meaning of this is molecular chaos. Now you can see that this is why this is happening. It is because of collisions. So if you are asking what is the mechanism is the collisions, because particles collide among themselves and particles collide with the walls of the chamber, and because of these collisions the velocities or the momenta gets constantly redistributed, so that the memory is lost, and at the end the equilibrium is set in where the velocity distribution is Maxwellian. And once you come to Maxwell distribution, the velocity continues to remain in the Maxwell distribution. Yeah, is there a question?
Sir, the
Yeah.
momentum with which the gas was injected, that will remain same.
Momentum with which
The gas was injected, total momentum. And now the gas has come to equilibrium. The total momentum, if we calculate, then it should remain same.
You mean whether the momentum is conserved? Is that the question that you're asking?
Yes,
the total momentum?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the total momentum is conserved if there is no external force that is acting on this, and you will see that such things will be preserved. There is no problem with that, but the only thing is that the momentum gets redistributed. So this redistribution can happen both in terms of the magnitude as well as the direction. A redistribution of any vector quantity, the distribution corresponds to both magnitude as well as the direction.
But only the information is lost.
Information is lost. That's right.
Okay, sir.
So the information is lost. So the reduction of information is what gives rise to the increase in the ignorance, and the maximum ignorance is attained when we have equilibrium.
Sir, how can we say the molecule has memory to say that about the loss of memory?
I'm not saying molecule has memory. Suppose if a molecule is moving in some x direction, let's say, and if you apply electric field, then the molecule, suppose if it is a charged particle, you apply electric field or magnetic field, depending on what is the velocity with which it is entering those fields will determine its trajectory, correct? So that means the trajectory of the particle or the way it is responding to the applied fields depends on what is the initial velocity of the particle, correct? So this is, when I say memory, I'm not saying that the particle has a real memory or something, or it has a brain, or it has a memory. I'm saying that the system's initial state information will have a bearing on the final result. When the gas equilibrates, the system's initial information has no bearing. Okay, this is what I am trying to call it. Memory is lost. Okay, so please don't read too much into this word memory. I wanted to put it in that language so that in physical terms it means that the final result does not depend on the initial direction through which I injected the gas. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Sir.
Yeah. Yes.
So there is the principle of conservation of information in physics. So in an isolated system, the information should be conserved.
No.
But here it's not conserved.
No, there is no such principle of conservation of information.
No,
information is not conserved.
Okay.
There is no such principle called the conservation of information, and that is the whole point. We don't know information. Information goes on diminishing. Okay, and that is, see, if the information is conserved, then you have to say entropy is also conserved, because entropy is somehow related to the missing information. Correct. So there is no such thing called information is conserved.
Okay.
Okay, so now I wanted to just, before I conclude this thing, I wanted to also tell you that suppose, but let's say I take the same chamber and I inject only one particle, because the equilibration is a concept that is coming because of this molecular chaos. I wanted to also make this point that suppose I inject only one particle in this direction. Okay, so one particle. Okay, now you wait long enough time. Okay, so long time. That is, you can seal it and then wait long time. Now, what is it that you observe here? Now, will you observe this particle will go back and forth like a bouncing ball here? That is one possibility. The particle goes up and down. Other possibility is that this particle will be moving randomly in all possible directions, just like it is a part of the gas that we have in the equilibrium. So if you look at the equilibrium situation in the previous example, if you consider one of the particle in that and just forget about all other particles, what is the way in which this one particle moves? This particle also moves in the same way. Okay, so we can ask a question whether this is correct or this is correct. Now, if this is correct, then we can say even one particle will equilibrate. If this is correct, we can say one particle is different from the gas example that we have. So, are there someone who can make a guess which one is correct? It will go up and down, or it will also be like a representative trajectory of a single particle in the gas.
So we should expect the first case.
Should expect the first case. Okay, that's a good guess. Any? Okay, there are only two options here, so you could probably choose one of them, or at least half of you can choose one. Yeah, some of you can speak, because some speaking is.
Sir, if the particle is injected perpendicular to the surface, then the option 1 should be correct.
Okay. Yeah, but do you think option 1 is correct?
Also, particle can come into rest after long time.
Particle can come to rest after long time. Why do you think so? Who is answering this?
So Benexi.
Benexi, why do you think?
It's like there is single particle.
Okay.
So
You
there
get
is
tired.
no possibility. There is a possibility of equilibrium, right? After
Yeah,
some
but
time,
equilibrium does not mean it should come to rest.
No, not like
Then
that.
what happens to the initial momentum? If there is no force acting on the system, the momentum is conserved. It has come with certain initial momentum. Correct. The momentum has to be conserved, so it will not come to rest. And also, last class we talked about Liouville theorem. Correct. If it comes to rest, then Liouville theorem will be violated.
There is slight
in formality.
Yeah. Benexi?
In former case, we said that there will not be conservation of initial momentum due to redistribution.
No, I
And
did not say that. I said the momentum is redistributed. See, for example, let us say a hypothetical situation. We have n particles and n minus particles are at rest and one particle is moving. Now, if such a gas is equilibrated, what happens is the momentum of this one particle will be distributed to as a momentum of all other particles, and then all the particles will be moving very, very slowly compared to one particle is moving with a large momentum. So such a redistribution will take place.
so in that case, itself, we can, according to the change.
I couldn't hear. According to, after that, I could not hear you. Is she there? Or the next thing?
Yes,
Abhijit,
sir.
you are saying something?
Sir,
I
assuming that the surface of that box is having, even if it has slight irregularity, then the particle will move randomly after that, after
Correct.
some long time.
Yeah. Now, what could be the reason why the box surface can be irregular?
Because those are also made up of atoms.
Atoms, okay. So why these atoms cannot be regular?
So we do not. How can we assume the shape of an atom?
Shape of the atom is largely spherical, and we have some nice spheres. Even in experiments like scanning tunneling microscope, we get these days that.
A plane surface, then it will have some irregularities in microscopic scale. So it should, after a long time, it should particle should go in any direction. We cannot predict which direction will it go if we do not if we do not know each and every strike where it is striking and how it is striking.
Okay. So, Benexi, you want to say something? Earlier you were saying something according to like that. Up to that I heard, and after that I could not hear.
Sir, what I said is like if there's we can if there is some redistribution, still we can find the initial state, right? Like the time taken for the redistribution, and that will change according to the initial momentum, right?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that the time taken is in some sense is very long, and it is also not going to be different for different initial states. For example, if I inject a particle along that direction, the time taken for the equilibration will be same as the particle that is injected in the x direction. So it's not going to give you any, that is if you are trying to label this initial state using time taken, more or less, whatever is your initial state, time taken for the equilibrium is same. It may be very long time, but that long time is same for all the initial configurations. Now, I think what I think Abhijit had come almost close to what happens. So what happens is this does not happen. So even a single particle will equilibrate, and the reason is that if you say that the chamber, okay, so the chamber exists at some temperature T. Okay, the finite temperature. So chamber temperature is T, let us say. Okay, that is the temperature of the chamber. Now this particle will actually see this chamber as some kind of a, because at finite temperature the atoms are in thermal motion, and you will see that this particle, this chamber actually looks somewhat like this. Not for you and me, but for the particle. Now the particle is actually coming in this direction, and because of these corrugations that are a result of the finite temperature, the particle will get pushed in all directions, and hence finally equilibration will lead to this kind of thing. So you can see that the equilibration, and even though the mechanism is collisions, and the collisions will also even with the walls of the container. Normally when we say collisions, collisions among the particles and also with the walls of the container. So collisions among particles and this is one thing, and then with the walls of the chamber. Okay, collisions among the particles, collision with the walls of the chamber. So in the second case where one particle is injected, collision with the walls of the chamber where the chamber is finite temperature is responsible for the equilibration. Okay, so this is in some sense the journey towards the equilibrium, or the case of journey towards the equilibrium. So what are the lessons to be learned? The journey to equilibrium is irreversible. That means it happens in one way. Once it reaches equilibrium, it will not go back. And the mechanism for this is collisions among the particles and collisions with the walls of the chamber.
Sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I have sent a few links about the conservation of information. I think it's a principle in physics.
Yeah, I have seen some things that you have sent in chat, but
if you can go through it, then
yeah,
later.
I can go through, but I will not be able to go through now. I will
Later,
go through
later.
anyway. I'll go through anyway. But if I have to copy these links and keep somewhere, or are they available after?
So they are available on the internet. So just type conservation information. Then it will be available.
Okay. Then I will look at that, and then we can discuss next time.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so this is one thing about the equilibrium or journey to equilibrium. And the next issue that I wanted to talk is after the system reaches an equilibrium. Okay, so the second issue is about equilibrium dynamics. Now you may wonder, what do we mean by equilibrium dynamics? Because yesterday we said the equilibrium itself is something to do with macroscopic properties not changing with time. So what is the dynamics? You know that if the system is in equilibrium, even if the system is in equilibrium, the microscopic dynamics is taking place. The particles are continuously moving and the system is changing from one microstate to other microstate. So yesterday we said that if you consider an isolated system in equilibrium, so isolated system in equilibrium, then we defined something called a microcanonical ensemble. How did we define a microcanonical ensemble? Is the defining feature is that all microstates are equally private. And if you can remember that we said that our microcanonical ensemble me shorthand write it like this, will be a set of states S1, S2. These are all microstates up to some S omega, such that probability of any Si is equal to 1 over omega for all I equal to 1 to omega. And this is our microcanonical ensemble, as we said yesterday. And then I said that an isolated system in equilibrium is defined in terms of fixing the total energy of the system, volume occupied by system, and number of particles. And once macro state is given, the number of microstates is fixed, and hence corresponding to this, there are omega microstates, and each one of them is equally probable microstates. And then Boltzmann's relation for a given macro state like this, EVN, can be written as AB logarithm of omega EVN. Okay, so now you can see that this much information is enough for us to do statistical mechanics, because in statistical mechanics, the moment you have a system, you try to compute this number of microstates, and once the number of microstates are computed, then you can relate it to entropy, and from this entropy equation, all thermodynamic properties can be obtained. So this is a linking equation between statistical mechanics and thermodynamics. Now, what do we mean by this? What do we mean by this equilibrium dynamics? Now, what happens even in equilibrium? So, even in equilibrium, system changes its microstates. Almost continuously. System is not at rest anytime. System changes its microstate continuously. Now, to write this one, let me go back to our description of a classical system in terms of, so in our classical system, we have Q bar and P bar. Q bar and P bar, that is essentially a point in gamma space, is a microstate. Correct? This is a microstate. That means now if you say that the total energy is fixed, E is fixed, that means your Q bar and P bar are constrained. Okay, so you can define set of all Q bar and P bar such that the Hamiltonian of the system, which is a function of Q bar and P bar, is equal to E. That means only those microstates for which the Hamiltonian is equal to E, they are the allowed microstates, are accessible microstates, are possible microstates for the system. Okay, so I'm going to define this as some SE, or I will call this as constant constant energy surface. Okay. So let me just give you some simple example which is familiar to you. Okay. Not from huge space. Suppose let's say you have a harmonic oscillator. Okay, so let's say harmonic oscillator. This problem you have done in classical mechanics, quantum mechanics many times. So I think let me say that this Hamiltonian for that, let me forget about mass and all that, is p square by 2 plus q square by 2. Okay, take mass equal to 1, omega equal to 1, etc. So this is the harmonic oscillator Hamiltonian. Now, suppose if I want to fix this is equal to the energy is fixed. Now I want to ask, suppose if I draw a phase space for this, let's say QP, then every point in this is not an allowed microstate for this constraint. If the total energy is fixed, then we have circle, okay, whose radius is I think square root of 2e, root 2e. So every point on this surface is a possible microstate if the energy is fixed. There may be infinitely many points, but every point on this circle. Okay, so suppose if I have a point here, it is not a part of the possible microstate because it doesn't correspond to this energy E. So like that, we can define in general a constant energy surface. Now you can see that this is a two-dimensional space Q and P, but the circle is a one-dimensional curve. Okay, so in general, this SE is 6n minus 1 dimensional surface. Some people call it hypersurface. Anything more than 2 dimension is called hypersurface. Okay, so it is a 6n minus 1 dimensional surface. Why 6n minus 1 dimensional surface? Because the gamma space is 6n dimensional space. So that is, you have a q bar here and p bar here, and this is your gamma space, and this is 6n dimensional space. Now in this you have a constant energy surface, that means some energy is fixed. Okay, so you call this as SE, and it is like you have one constraint. This is the constraint. So if you have one constraint, you can reduce the number of degrees of freedom by 1. So that is given by 6n minus 1 dimensional surface. So this is the constant energy surface, and points belonging to this constant energy surface are the possible microstates for this microcanonical ensemble. So now what happens is, so now let us forget about gamma space. So now let me say that I have some kind of a surface. I'm going to call this as SE. Okay, this is my constant energy surface. Now suppose at some time t equal to 0, if this is my microstate, then what happens? After some time this microstate will change, this will change, etc. It may be making some orbit or a trajectory on this constant energy surface, and that constitutes what is called the equilibrium dynamics. Okay, even in the equilibrium, the microstate keeps continuously changing, and this change in the microstates as a function of time constitutes the equilibrium dynamics. Now we would like to understand how this change in microstates or what kind of dynamics in this particular equilibrium ensemble will give rise to the equal a priori probabilities that we have already discussed. That means, what is the dynamical justification for the postulate of equal a priori probabilities? So that is what is the question that we will be interested in equilibrium dynamics. Okay. The point is that the dynamics is something which dynamics in the microstate is something which you don't have an access to. That was the whole point. We don't know the initial state to start with, and now we are trying to say something about the dynamics of change in this microstate configuration of the system. Okay, so Boltzmann had actually made some progress in terms of understanding this dynamics, and so initially Boltzmann introduced. So this is something called ergodic hypothesis. Okay, so there is something called ergodic hypothesis. Okay, so first let me tell you what usually ergodic hypothesis is written. So suppose if you consider some particular property of the system. So let's say that so let f be some property. Then by that means there will be some dynamical function associated with this q bar and p bar. Okay. Now I can think of two different types of averages. One I will define it as time average. That is I'm defining this as f bar. So f bar is equal to, so I'm going to have this time measured f of t and then integrate this over some time capital T and then divide this by 1 by t and do this in the limit t tends to infinity. Okay, so this is called the time average of this property. And if you remember, typically in an experiment, this is what you do. You have some kind of a meter which has some response time, and it will measure some property as a function of time up to some capital T, and then take an average over that time. Okay, so this is what is usually done in experiments. Now the other average is what we have defined, that is ensemble average. So ensemble average, let me define it as a angular bracket like this. This is going to be, you have a particular ensemble, define it as rho of q bar p bar. I don't have to write time because we are talking about an equilibrium ensemble. And then of course you write down the dynamical function associated with this property f, and then integrate with dq bar dp bar. And of course this ensemble integration is over all allowed region. That means if you are talking about a microcanonical ensemble, you have to integrate over all those microstates for which the energy Hamiltonian is equal to energy. I am putting a prime on this integral to say that this is the constraint over which this integral is set. Now, these are two different types of arrays that you can think of defining, and ergodic hypothesis tells you. So, ergodic hypothesis implies that this time average is equal to an ensemble average, and this was very important and necessary because you are always trying to calculate ensemble averages in statistical mechanics and measure time averages in experiments, and when you want to use experiment as a guide to see whether you are doing correctly or not. So this correspondence is very much important.
Sir,
But
what and all property we can include here? Like some property means.
actually, you take any property. This is it comes under this. So I said some property. I did not choose any property, but all properties can be addressed with this formalism.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Now we can ask a little further and try to understand what does this mean. It is when you are able to say that this time average is equal to ensemble average, that is the ergodic hypothesis. But I also wanted to tell you that this is called a hypothesis because it is not very easy to prove this in a general case. So we can say that there is some general conditions under which this may be true, but we have no explicit mathematical proof that you can write for a general system. So it remains as a hypothesis. There is, of course, a very important theory called ergodic theory in mathematics. Even though this was initially, and interestingly, the important contributions for this theory, though this was started with Boltzmann in 1870s, then I think 1900 Henry Poincaré made some contribution. Then the next contribution came in 1927 by Birkhoff, and it is a Birkhoff who actually proved that this ergodicity means this time average is same as ensemble average. And then the next contribution came in 1960. Then the next contribution came in 1980. So I think the major contributions are coming in this theory within a time gap of about 20-30 years. So the field is very tough and mathematically very rigorous. But essentially what I am trying to say is that this issue of ergodicity, I want to understand in the context of giving a dynamical justification for postulate of equal a priori probabilities. Now, how do we do that? Now, the issue is that the ergodicity can be understood in the following fashion. Suppose, let's say that you have this constant energy surface. So let's say this is a C, and let's say I start with a particular microstate. Okay. Now, your system will actually have a trajectory like this because system is making some kind of a movement in the phase space, right? Now, the situation is such that if you consider an initial microstate and then take some kind of an open set of initial microstates around that, okay, that means you take some neighborhood of that initial microstate. So let me call it as some U. Okay. I understand that this is internal energy. This is some kind of a small set around this initial point U. Now let's say that dynamics is a map. Okay, so let me call this map as some t. That means this map at time t. Okay, so if I take this tt of u, that means this region, this small region, will become some region in some other point on this constant energy surface. Okay. Now, what this tells you is that when you try to take this initial neighborhood of that point and evolve it in time, and then you take some other neighborhood, then this is non-negative for any u comma v, for any u comma v for some t. What does this mean in words is that, suppose I take some other neighborhood here and I call this as v. Now, as you take time evolution of this region will touch this region for some time. Now, this v can be anywhere here. Okay, so that means there will be a non-zero overlap between time evolved u and v for all u and v. You can take u anywhere, v anywhere, etc., etc. This simply means that this particular constant energy surface is indecomposable under equilibrium dynamics. Okay, this is indecomposable. What do I mean by indecomposable? Indecomposable means that whole of this constant energy surface is one surface for the dynamics. That means you can go from anywhere to anywhere. Okay. Now, when will it be decomposable? So one can ask that question. Suppose if I have this constant energy surface, okay, so this is my SE, and let's say in addition to energy, in addition to E, let's say let there be another constant of motion. Let there be another constant of motion. Call it some A. Now let's say that so if I give, okay, so let's say first I fix E and A as an initial state. Okay, so that means let's say that let us assume that this part of the constant energy surface has got a value A1, and this has got a value A2, let's say, for this property A. It's also a constant number. So that means if I start at this point, my U, where the value is E and A1, then since A1 is a constant of motion, dynamics will not take it to this region at all. So if I consider, if this is my U and if this is my V somewhere here, now these two cannot be, so T of T for any such dynamics, U intersection V will be null, because these two cannot be taken, because A1 and A2 are two different values and A is a constant of motion. So dynamics will never take this trajectory from U to V. So then in such case, we say that SE is decomposable. So SE is indecomposable is another statement saying that energy is the only constant of motion. If there is any other constant of motion for the system, then SE is decomposable. Okay, so energy, total energy is the only constant of motion.
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, what is the codomain of the map, sir? Is it SE?
Oh, this T of T map, you mean? Yeah, so the T of T is essentially SE to SE. We are not going to go away from SE.
Okay, sir.
So the total energy is the only color. So the first point I want you to understand is that the ergodicity means that the total energy surface is indecomposable. Now the second point I wanted to make here is that about the dynamics. Okay, so first thing is please understand that SE is indecomposable, and second thing is we have to understand the dynamics on. Okay, so now before we go to dynamics on SE, let us try to get some kind of a familiarity with this phase space things. In general, suppose if you consider this a small so we have the equations of motion are in general coupled, non-linear, ordinary differential equations. These are our equations of motion. Basically, the Hamilton's equations of motion that I'm talking about. Now you can see that whenever there is some nonlinearity, if you consider suppose you have a small region like this, okay, as we discussed in the case of Liouville theorem also. So let's say this is your U. Now what happens to this after some time? This may become, that is after some time delta t, let's say, this region can actually change its shape and it can become a longer region like this. And after some more time delta t, there is some kind of a bending that might take place like this. So there are two things which are called stretching and folding. So these two seem to be characteristic dynamical features of the evolution of a region in the phase space whenever we have a nonlinear system of ODEs. Okay, this was the development by Smale in 1960s, where he showed that there is some kind of a horseshoe like thing will happen. This is like horseshoe. So stretching and folding things happen like this. Now there is an interesting map which is called. So let me just mention about it. We'll come back to this discussion. There is a map called Baker map. Okay, so this map is actually from 0, 1 cross 0, 1 to 0, 1 cross 0, 1. That is a unit square to itself. Okay, so the map is such that this is very famous in nonlinear dynamics. So the map is such that if you consider a unit square, okay, suppose if this is your unit square, okay, so this is 0 to 1 and this is 0 to 1. Now in the first step, this is done in 2 steps. In the first step, you stretch this. That is, it is made longer like this. This is stretching. Okay, so this is 0 to 2 and 0 to half. And then you divide this into 2 and then put this on the top. That is folding. So this will come back to your 0 to 1 to 0 to 1. But the whole only thing is this is not same as this. Like for example, if you have very interesting physicists are generally very much attached to cats. Schrodinger cat, this kind of cat. So let's say that you have a very nice picture of cat here. Now when you stretch it, this cat will also get stretched in the following fashion. I'm not an artist, please bear with me. And this is the stretched cat. And now when you put it back, you're going to put it back on this. So that means you're going to have something like this. And a part of this will be like this. So this cat is now kind of broken. So now you can see that this is not same as this. Now this is one iteration. That means in one time evolution step, you are going from here to here. This is stretching, and this is folding. Now imagine you do this again and again. That means you again stretch it, fold it, stretch it, fold it, and you go on doing this for a large number of times. And what you see at the end is some kind of random points everywhere. And mind you, these are not points, these are actually parts of this cat's face. And you can't recognize where the cat is. And so this is something which will be essentially okay. So this is our cat. Okay, essentially this is cat. Okay, now you can see that this particular example is a kind of a toy model which essentially captures the stretching and folding dynamics of the nonlinear systems. Okay, so please read something more on this nonlinear dynamics books if you want, if you are interested. Baker map. And so now let us go back to our constant energy surface. So now what happens is, so if you imagine that you have a constant energy surface, and then so you started with let's say a small region U. And now what actually happens is that if you assume that there is some kind of a stretching and folding happens as the dynamics takes place, the equilibrium dynamics is rather very complicated and very complex dynamics. Now the stretching and folding will take place in such a way that if you are trying to understand that the entire, so let me imagine that I have some kind of so this red whatever I have drawn here is not a line, but imagine this is some kind of a region, and this region is what the small u is after a long time. Okay, so this could be the region. By repeated stretching and folding, it has occupied the entire SE. Now, if, for example, you take any particular state here, suppose you call this as your V, then this has an overlap with this. However small V is, okay, so this red one is, so this region is essentially what is, this is V, and so your T of U intersection V is non-zero, is non-null set. That means there is some overlap between this. Now this is one particular mechanism. Now let's say that if you imagine that you take suppose if I imagine that I am just drawing some particular line like this, and I wanted to understand small regions of this one. What is the, suppose if I ask this question, that along this line, for example, in different points, what is the time spent by the trajectory in that point? Okay, so you can see that the time spent in different regions of this constant energy surface. Okay, so let us call this as maybe some kind of x along this line. Then you will see that more or less it is going to be constant. Now supposing if I define, so now you can do two things. One is you divide this constant energy surface into some kind of slices. Okay, so Boltzmann called this as some coarse graining. So let's say you divide this into some slices like this. Now you can say that every slice, okay, so the dynamics is such that there is some time that is spent in every slice. Okay, so in this slice, this is basically region in the first place. So you can, so suppose if you take this particular cell, and then you define a Q bar and P bar associated with that one, a Q bar and P bar associated with that one, and then what is the probability of this microstate? You can, of course, you have to also give some dq bar and dp bar, because that has, the cell has some volume, and this is going to the probability. So this probability can be identified as the time spent in the cell. Okay, so if you identify like this, then this gives rise to, that is the the spends equal time in regions of equal size. Okay, so this feature of equilibrium dynamics, which is what is guaranteed by the ergodicity, is in some sense gives you a dynamical justification for postulate of equal a priori probability. Equal a priori. Okay, so I am trying to just give you some basic idea of this ergodic theory. Ergodic theory is a very vast subject. There is a book by P.R. Halmos on ergodic theory, which is very tough to read. But if you are interested for further understanding on ergodic theory, you can look at the book by very. There is another book by him on finite dimensional Hilbert spaces. So very good mathematician and a very popular writer. So this is one of the issue about the dynamical justification or the equilibrium dynamics. Okay, so now the issue is that we are now ready to launch ourselves into the equilibrium, so the equilibrium statistical mechanics.
Sir?
Yeah.
So how are you saying that the trajectory spends equal time in equal regions of equal size?
Actually, I am not saying that it spends equal regime, but this mechanism of stretching and folding will happen in such a way that if you take equal regions, the overlap between the trajectory of any u and then that equal regions will have some measure which will be same. Okay, so I have not proved this, but this is just an argument. Now, Boltzmann also said that if such a equal areas have equal time, the trajectory spent equal time, then we can justify this a priori probabilities. Okay. So we have not proved anything here. These are just arguments, and these arguments.
Basically, you are,
yeah, go ahead.
So basically, you are going from time average is equal to ensemble average. Time average is equal to ensemble average. From that to equal a priori probability.
Actually, if you understand that these two issues, two statements that I have made, one is constant energy surface is decomposable, and second thing is equal regions in the constant energy surface will have equal time. These two are sufficient to derive this time average is equal to ensemble average. Okay, this is a little more fundamental understanding than that. Okay, because if once you are able to say that the time is, you are defining probabilities based on the time spent, this equation, this understanding that these two are equal is sufficient for us to get time average is equal to ensemble average. Okay, so this understand, like for example, if I have this statement that time average is equal to ensemble average, from there I do not know how to justify, or it is not possible to justify postulate of equal a priori probabilities. But on the other hand, if we have this understanding that the entire constant energy surface is indecomposable, and then this correspondence between time spent in equal size regions is the same as the probability, then you can say that this implies time average equal to ensemble average. In addition, it also provides a justification for the postulate of equal a priori probability. But this is just about the equilibrium dynamics, that is after the system reaches the equilibrium. Now, people also worried about questions like whether the ergodic dynamics of the system that we are saying here, is it also enough for the system to reach equilibrium? Apparently, the answer seems to be that it is not enough. Just ergodicity, of course, these things are some new results in 90s and later 90s, that it is not enough. You require something more than ergodic dynamics for us to understand how the system reaches equilibrium. But once the system comes to equilibrium, then the ergodic dynamics is sufficient for us to establish that equal a priori probabilities as well as time average is equal to ensemble average.
Sir, also I read in BSc that these two statements, like equal a priori probability and time average is equal to ensemble average, these two are taken as postulates for classical statistical mechanics.
Correct. They are taken. See, ergodicity is just a hypothesized, and the postulate of equal a priori probability is an assumption. As I told you, that some people call it assumption, some people call it lack of, absence of any assumption. But anyway, you are not going to derive that. So I also did not derive it. Please don't be under that impression that I've derived it. I'm just providing another view of the same thing. That means I am providing a dynamical justification. Justification is not a derivation.
Okay, sir.
So it is no longer true. It is not true that I am providing a more fundamental reason for a priori probabilities, but I am only trying to say that it is not in contradiction to the equilibrium dynamics.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so now equilibrium statistical mechanics is, as we said earlier, now that we have understood that equal a priori probabilities are fine. So the work horse for us is this equation, that is SEVN is equal to AB logarithm of omega r. Okay, so this omega is omega of EVN is the number of microstates for a given macro state described by constant energy, constant volume, and constant number of particles. Now, at this point, I wanted to say that sometimes you call this omega as so this is the only thing that you have to This is the only thing we have to compute. Compute or calculate. Or count, derive, whatever you call it, in statistical. And then this relation gives you entropy, and once you have no entropy, then you do thermodynamics, same as what you have been doing in your earlier courses on thermodynamics. So whatever you did in BSc, same thermodynamic formulas can be used once you come to, once you relate this to entropy. So the whole aspect is this obtaining this omega. Okay, so now how do you obtain this omega? So in general, as we told you that for a microcanonical ensemble, since EVN is fixed, so we have a constant energy surface. Okay, so we have constant energy surface. This is a part of the phase space, as we have Q bar and P bar, and we have a constant energy surface like this. And all the points are on the constant energy surface. The possible microstates are on the constant energy surface. So that means you can see that this omega EVN, because these points can be continuously be there on the surface. So this is essentially proportional to integral over dq bar dp bar. And let me constrain this integral by saying this h of q bar p bar is equal to E. Okay, so this is essentially what I have written is surface area of S, constant energy. So this has to be proportional to that. It's not equal to that, but this has to be proportional to that. I could, okay, so this is something that is understandable, because if you have bigger area, you have more microstates, because the number of microstates are actually on this surface. But one thing is, one thing that you have to keep in mind is that this is a dimensionless quantity, because this is a number, right? The number of microstates. So this is a dimensionless quantity on the left-hand side, whereas this is not dimensionless quantity. This has some dimension. So your constant should be such that this is made a dimensionless quantity. But then there is some kind of an issue with respect to making this dimensionless, because this is a 6n minus 1 dimensional hypersurface. Now this constraint h is equal to E is used to eliminate one of the 6n variables. Okay. Now depending on which variable I am going to eliminate, the dimension will be different. Suppose if I eliminate Q, then you have 6n minus 1, so you have to divide that by Q. So if I have eliminated P, then I have something which is a different dimension. So there is some kind of a confusion. We don't know. We can choose to. I can choose to eliminate Q. You can choose to eliminate P. So there is some kind of difficulty. That is one aspect, and the other aspect is that energy of a system is constant. That means it is completely isolated. Is something is too much of an idealization. Usually one must allow for some kind of fluctuations in the energy. You can only say that the fluctuations are very small for isolated system. You cannot have a very ideal situation where the energy is very, very constant. So in that particular case, what one can do is that we can say that we are going to define some other quantity So let me define something called, so I'm calling it as gamma as EVN, which is equal to, I have integral dq bar dt bar, integral dq bar dt bar. But now I'm going to constrain this as some E less than or equal to h of q bar p bar less than or equal to E plus some delta. That means I am now going to consider that there is some other let's say there is some other energy let's say this is SE and this is SE plus delta. So all this region is my allowed values of microscopes. This annular region, this is my allowed values of microscopes. And that is what is getting calculated here. And of course, delta E is very, very small. Okay. Now this is no problem because this is associated with the volume. Okay. This is associated with the volume. I can always divide this by some quantity which has the dimension of volume. So one usually divides this by h power 3n. Okay, so where this h power 3n is, that is, you are now trying to write this volume in terms of cells. So this h power 3n is the volume of a cell in the phase space. Now Boltzmann called this as coarse graining. So essentially, what he meant was that we don't have information about every point in the phase space. We have to consider that as some cells, and this is the minimum cell volume. So you cannot access any information much smaller than this. Now, at that time, what went through his mind is not very clear, but there is a kind of a long debate among the people who like Boltzmann and people who don't like Boltzmann. And people say that, okay, Boltzmann, now we know very well that there is something called Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, which will not allow you to go to every point in the phase space. There is a minimum limit that you can access phase space to, and that turns out to be the reason why there is a requirement for the phase space to be considered as a cell. But Boltzmann, 40 years before Heisenberg's work, had also come to the same conclusion. So what is the genesis of this? Is something which is very highly debated in the history of physics. And some people feel that Boltzmann probably knows quantum mechanics, and if he has got enough encouragement, he would have discovered it himself. But then there is also other arguments. So let me not go into those arguments today, but definitely Boltzmann had something in mind where he put, this is what I said yesterday, Boltzmann gave Planck's constant and Planck gave Boltzmann constant. So this kind of a coarse graining is what Boltzmann said is what gives rise to this. So now this is fine because we are going to calculate this, and then now there is something very interesting. What is our aim? Our aim is, after all, to use these things to do thermodynamics. So there is something called thermodynamic limit. thermodynamic limit. So you can do statistical mechanics for an n particle system. Finally, when you want to calculate things and then compare with the experiments in thermodynamics, you have to take the following limit. That is, you must take the limit n going to infinity, volume going to infinity, such that n by v is finite. So this is defined as thermodynamic limit. Now in this limit, you can define a third quantity, which I will call it as sigma of EVN, which is equal to 1 over h to the power 3n integral. Now I also constrain this dq bar dt bar, but here the constraint is h of q bar t bar is less than or equal to e. This is essentially what? The number of microstates that are in the interior of the constant energy surface. Or this is actually 1 by h power 3n into volume of x. Okay, so now the issue is that in thermodynamic limit, so in this limit, your entropy can be written as, so this entropy in this limit can be written as kb logarithm of omega as a function of EVN, or equivalently it can also be written as kb logarithm of gamma EVN, or equivalently it can be written as kb logarithm of sigma as a function of EVN. Now this implies that in the limit n tending to infinity, the contribution to the volume of S comes dominantly from the surface. So dominantly that when you take logarithm, whatever is coming from the interior is not important. So this allows us, when we are doing calculations, sometimes it is very easy to calculate this one in some problems, then we will calculate sigma. In some other problems, it is very easy to calculate omega, so we calculate omega. So in thermodynamic limits, since all of them are equal, depending on our convenience, we calculate one of them to obtain the entropy of the system. Okay, so this is the methodology which we can use to. So this is essentially our equilibrium. So there are two types of things that we can do. So we have a system, and this is a macroscopic system, and the system of n particles, and there are two kinds of applications that we can think of. One is particle, that is each particle is quantum mechanical. What does that mean? It has discrete energy. Discrete energy spectrum. Okay. Or we have a situation where the particle is classical. classical. That means energy varies continuously. Okay, so in this case, it is more convenient to use this omega because we are just going to do some counting, and in this case, it is more convenient to use sigma. Okay, so these are the two types of applications that we will come across. We will see in our applications. From now onwards, we are going to do certain applications of this microcanonical ensemble. So if they have discrete energy spectrum, then we will use, it's easy to compute omega. And if you have continuous energy variation, then it is easy to do phase space integration and compute sigma. In both cases, anyway, entropy is related to logarithm of these respective quantities. And once entropy is obtained, then we are going to use our thermodynamical relations to get the thermodynamic property. So from the next class, we will begin our applications. So I think with today's class, we have completed all the formal aspects of formulation as well as microcanonical ensemble. And so I will stop here, and we have some quick questions. I can. Any questions?
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, is it correct to say that the constant energy surface is a subset of phase space?
Yes.
And,
yeah, that's correct.
And will it have any boundaries?
Yeah, so that is why initially I gave an example of a harmonic oscillator that is a circle, and so it has a well-defined boundary.
Okay, sir.
Any other question? Alik Mahapatra.
Sir?
Yes, sir. Hello, Alik Mahapatra. How are you?
Yes, sir. I'm fine, sir. How are you?
Good. So you are from which college or university?
Sir, I'm from Ranchi University.
You are attending from Bihar or Bengal?
Sir, I'm Bengali. I'm attending from Bengal.
So is this useful?
Sorry, sir.
Are these lectures useful for you?
Yes, sir. Very much useful. I had this course in the previous semester, but due to Corona, that got cancelled. So I missed out on the opportunity of. So it's a great opportunity for me, sir.
Good.
Sir?
Satish. Who is Satish?
Sir, I'm Shweta. I'm using another account.
Huh? Oh, okay. Sorry. Fine. Yeah, some question is there? Abhijit?
Which book we have to go through to whatever you taught today, sir?
Okay, so I think I mentioned some set of books right in the beginning. Did I? I think I talked about some books earlier, maybe in the first lecture. But many of these things, like whatever I talked, may not be found in one book. So I told you that there is a book called R. Valescu, is equilibrium and non-equilibrium statistical mechanics. So initial discussion of the formulation of quantum mechanics. As I told you that formulation aspects are there in this book, but slightly tougher to read, but I have tried to simplify those formulations when I presented. So if you use these notes and that book, probably this will be good. And the equilibrium statistical mechanics essentially can be read from R.K. Patria. But definitely you will not find exactly like what I have said here, but there's some wrong, these two books. And more mathematical treatment you can find in E. Reichel. A little bit more on ergodic theory you can read here. Ergodic theory. So time average equal to ensemble average. That part is discussed a little better in this book. So when I am presenting this, I might have tried to present the best part from many books. So you can choose any one of these books and then try to understand it yourself, and then don't try to choose one subject where there are varied ways of presenting, and that is what creates difficulty also. So it's usually difficult to follow one single book and then understand what it is. It depends on each one's appreciation. So what I am presenting is what I appreciated from reading many books, and you don't have to also believe what I am presenting, but try to see what is the best understanding you can get from all these sources. Any other question? Okay, so there are no questions. Thank you very much for coming on another day. Vijit, are you asking something?
Yes, sir. So can you explain again that SE is indecomposable?
F is indecomposable.
SE is indecomposable.
SE is indecomposable.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's say that. So here, if you take essentially what I'm trying is that if you take this small neighborhood of a point, and then if this is the dynamics, a map, dynamical map, and if you take this T of U intersection V could be another arbitrary set like this. Okay, then there will be an overlap between them. You take U and V anywhere, there exists some T for which they will overlap. That means this entire constant energy surface, from anywhere to anywhere you can reach. Okay. Suppose if you have an island, I don't know if there is somebody from Lakshadweep in your class. Suppose if you have an island like Lakshadweep or Andaman, and if your dynamics is such that you can only travel by car, then you will not be able to reach Pondicherry, right? So under the dynamics defined by car, Lakshadweep or Andaman is decomposed. That means you cannot reach from there to here. So that is what happens if you have another constant of motion, let's say a property called A, and if you initially give your fix E and A, A1, then you are going to be inside this region only. You will not be able to go to this region because dynamics will not take you A1 to A2 because A is a constant of motion. If you start here, you will be inside this region. So in such cases, that is, if there exists another constant of motion other than the energy, then SC becomes decomposable. So SC is indecomposable is necessary for dynamics to be ergodic, and which is an equivalent statement to say that the total energy is the only constant of motion. I don't know if this was your question or I am doing like what.
Like in the picture, U region is like a set of microstate. V is another set of microstates.
U.
In that picture,
Yeah.
you have.
So the question is, yeah.
So we can.
U is a neighborhood of some okay, so it's a small neighborhood. By definition, when we say neighborhood, it is a small neighborhood. It can be however small it is. Okay, so you can choose any small neighborhood. Similarly, V. But there will be some other microstates on that also. Correct. It's in some sense it's a set of microstates. Okay, so I think then we can close. There are no other questions. So I think we will have the same Wednesday. I think only Devanjan has some exam, so we can see the video, and after that, if you have some questions in the next class, we can discuss.
Okay, sir.